Let the single mom pay for the plane ticket. Well, we are actually coming to the end of the evening. We have some other things to do and some people to hear from. Thank you all. You've been all good sports for me. And now it is my true privilege, and really the reason why I agreed to MC this was the opportunity to introduce this guy, because Bobby Rich is one of my dearest friends. He was at my wedding. Of course, so was O.J. Simpson.
There's no Cosby there.
Of all the people that I've ever worked for, and this is radio and television. Absolutely the best boss I ever had. The most supportive, and I think the best program director in America. Some of his accolades: the originator of B100, I didn't know that. Arizona Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Yeah. Okay. It's him and One Country Star. 22 years as the morning host of Mix FM in Tucson. And by the way, you know, Tucson, he comes over here to Paula and goes, wow. And he's the president and part-time DJ of Bobby's B100.com.
Oh, yeah!
Extreme honor. Let's give a standing ovation to Bobby Rich.
Thank you very much. Wow. The last several weeks have been just like this otherworldly kind of experience for me. I haven't slept very well the last 3 weeks because it's been a weird high for me to think about this night, and then being here the last 2 days, and then today seeing all of your faces and hearing what John put together on Res Radio has been absolutely phenomenal. I'm very, very proud of what we have all done, and I will say that listening to some of the air checks that John's been playing back, gosh, I don't know. I'm kind of it's been kind of hitting me kind of hard, because some of the language and some of the double entendre and some of the almost like blatant sexual references. Gee, Cherie, I'm so proud of you. I obviously set such a great example for all of you with my leadership in that area. Because that was what I intended when I started it, of course. But it really illustrates how much things have changed since 1974, 75. I mean, I don't even know how to go about talking about this because it's so inappropriate, but...
Oh, do it.
Well, no, I mean, I really can't, because it is inappropriate, and it was so wrong the way that we talked about things 40 years ago. And, but it was so fun.
You are sick, aren't you?
And yeah, I mean, I still live in that still lives in my head, but you see, I'm still on the radio. And I'm doing this like adult contemporary show for a 25-54 female audience, and I can't do any of that. So I have this like series of filters that I have to run everything through before it comes out of my mouth that goes through the radio, so I can't say any of that stuff anymore. And I have to be really careful because they have this new thing called HR. And it just takes all the fun out of it. And the sad thing about it is I still know so many people, and they're not just guys. It's just a guy thing. It's just, there's so many people that really still enjoy that body, kind of language or talk. And man, I wish I could have lived earlier, I guess. I think I was born a little too late. I think if I had just been born 15 years earlier, I could have gotten in on that and been done before all this crap happened. That would have been much more fun for me. But it is a great pleasure for me to see all your faces, to hear all your voices, to go back. And I will say this, hearing the replay on John's station, on Res Radio, I gotta say, for the most part, and I mean greatly the most part, we sound the same that we did. And that is just incredible to me. I didn't expect that. I didn't think 20 or 30 or 40 years ago that we would sound pretty much the same today that we sounded then. And I can't explain it. I don't understand it. I don't know why it is. But I mean, our content has changed, but our voices haven't very much. And if you started when I did 40, 45 years ago on the radio, and you're still on it, or you still talk on the radio or whatever, you might have a little lower register or a little slower delivery or whatever. But really, if you were on the radio then and you're on the radio now, or you have a chance to talk on the radio now, you really still can fool the audience into not realizing what your age group is. Right, shotgun?
Yeah,
You better believe it, baby. The last time we had a reunion was 15 years ago, and this is the second and final reunion. And I maintain that is the truth. That was my claim, because I feel like there is a time to end things, and I feel like we should end it at a time when we all are good. And if you want to keep having them, that's fine. But I'll tell you what, I would never, ever ask anybody to do what John Fox did this year. John went way over the top in what he did. He did it with great passion and a great deal of I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe how he just kept, every day, he just kept doing stuff and doing stuff and doing stuff, and he did it passionately, as I said, and he did it patiently too. And with his wife Susan at his side, they both did a great job. So you cannot thank them enough. So you don't need to do it now. And at the last reunion, I was kind of thrilled, but also a little embarrassed that it turned into a little bit of a Bobby Rich tribute, and I really loved that, but I didn't intend it that way. So I insisted that this one be a tribute to the real person who made this happen, and that was Paul. My history with Paul started the day he came to Los Angeles to meet me in 1974. The truth is, though, in spite of my tribute to Paul, who did hire me and is the reason I'm here and came here, was that Clark Anthony is the one who told Paul about me. And you may not know this, but Clark and I knew each other from 5 years previous to that in Davenport, Iowa. Clark and I knew each other there where we were together at KSTT in Davenport, Iowa in 1969 to 72. And then Clark came to work at KFMB AM, and Clark told Paul about me when I was at KHJ in Los Angeles. And then he told Paul about me, and then Paul contacted me, and then Paul came up to Los Angeles, and I came to pick him up at the Burbank Airport in my 1973 Buick Riviera. It was a kind of a golden copper kind of a color, and it was that year that they had this like long back end. It was the ugliest car ever, but it was so hip in 1973. I got to tell you. So I picked up Paul at the airport, and he took me to my first ever trip to a Benihana. And I think that was on Wilshire Boulevard. Is that right? Do you recall? In LA? La Cienega? Okay, yeah. So Paul, I'd never been to a Benihana, and Paul took me there, and we got a first-time chef that night, and Paul was trying to impress me, which meant a lot to me because, I mean, I was like a kid, you know. He was trying to impress me, and the chef, while he was chopping up the shrimp and the steak and everything, hit a shrimp wrong, and the tail of the shrimp went flying up in the air and landed in Paul's bouffant hairdo. or bushy blonde hairdo, as he liked to call it. Do you remember that? There was a Beach Boys song about a bushy blonde hairdo, and he said, "I have a bushy blonde hairdo." But Paul hired me at that time to be the operations manager or director of KFMB AM, which was odd because at that time Jack Woods, may he rest in peace, was the program director of KFMB AM. But for some reason at that time, being the operations manager was a step under the program director, which I could never quite understand, but at that time it was. And so that means that Jack Woods was theoretically my boss, and of course Paul was our boss. But Jack and I got along, and it was cool. And Paul had brought me in to contemporize KFMB AM. That was kind of the idea of it. And Jack and I got along fine, and everything went well. I was doing afternoon drive on KFMB AM at that time, and one day Paul had me come in and to let me know that the station, KFMB AM, was lucky enough to rehire a former personality that I was not aware of named Perry Allen. Apparently he had been a really big deal. And I thought, oh boy, that's going to be really neat, because apparently he was a really big deal. Until I realized that Perry Allen would be replacing me in afternoon drive.
Good job, Paul.
And at that point, I would be moving to nighttime. So, get the picture here. He's hiring me from KHJ in Los Angeles to come to San Diego and to be the operations manager, and now he's hiring me to do afternoon drive, and now I'm going to move to nights. Kind of a step down.
We
Well,
have bigger plans for
hold on, it's not your turn yet. Well, I wasn't all that happy about that move, apparently, because that became obvious on my first time on the 6 to 9 p.m. shift when, well, I guess I decided if I was going to be on at night, I might as well go back to my top 40 days in delivery style. And I was pretty much screaming and saying things like, "Rich Brother Robin can eat my shorts," or words to that effect. About 8:45 p.m., I noticed that Paul was in the building. Just kind of meandering around the hallways, hanging around outside the window of the KFMB AM studio, and I didn't think much of it, except for the fact that it was kind of unusual for the general manager to be in the studio at 8:45 in the evening. So when I finished my show at 9, my first nighttime show, which I think I signed off with some kind of gigantic, "Come get me, mother, I'm through," sign off. I walked out the door and Paul said, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "Oh hell, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of pissed off or something." Anyway, I don't know if I remember much about what you said to me, the rest right at that point, but I do remember getting in the car and driving home, and honestly, I know that he calmed me down, and as I was driving home, I realized that he'd made the right decision. And he handled me very well. I mean, I was the talent. And those of you in the room who are talent know what I'm talking about. It's like, we need to be handled. And we need to be handled properly, because we're talent. And that wasn't the last time that he handled me, and handled me properly, because he continually would give me lots of leeway. But just before I was ready to do something that would probably, lose the station's license or something, he would gently pull me back in. And between every rating book, he would say something like, either we're not really quite up to snuff right now, we're getting some really good competition from somebody across the street, so what would I do with an extra 10 grand as far as a contest or something? And I would get all excited and come up with something, and then the next time around he would say, so we're coming off a real strong book, and I'm thinking we got to take advantage of this momentum, and hey, if I gave you an extra 10 grand, what could you do with that for marketing or contesting? Well, he knew how to deal with me. He knew how to deal with talent. He knew how to talk to you, and he was a leader. He was always knowing how to talk to his next person. He didn't tell you what to do. He told you something that would help you know what to do next. That's what made you, Paul, a great leader, those times. Now, Dan, can you hand me my bourbon glass that's sitting right there? Not very much left in it, but when I say toast, you say toast back, okay? I want to talk about my marvelous B100 jocks. All of them. You're all in the room tonight, or most of you. I'm sorry that all of you couldn't be here tonight. You're always thanking me for giving you this opportunity, but the truth is, Paul had to approve that. I might have hired you, but Paul had to say, okay, you can hire that person. So you really need to see him, thank him for that. So toast to Paul. Toast.
Yeah.
Toast back.
Thank you, Paul.
And the truth is, we got a bunch of great salespeople in the room tonight. Thank you all for coming tonight. And to the sales assistants, for instance. And those people are always thanking their sales managers for giving them the chance to do this. And they're always thanking them. So they're always thinking people like Pete Hallisay and John Lynch and Chuck Cotton. But it was Paul who gave them the opportunities to hire you. So toast to them. Toast to them. And all those other people that Paul hired for the office, all those other departments, traffic and continuity and all the other people that he could hire. He was the one who did that. So toast Paul for that. Toast. Toast back. And Paul That's to thank Augie Doggy and Doggy Daddy for hiring him. But hey, they didn't know what the hell was going on. So really, we had to thank somebody for allowing us to have the best job of our lives in almost every single case. And I think I speak for pretty much all of us. And probably the best time of our lives. So let's thank this guy. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul E. Palmer, host. Gary Kelly and Ron Cisco, will you step up, please? Wait for just a second before you talk. Okay. Gary's got something for you, first of all, right here. Gary, will you present that to Paul, please?
Hey, and I have one more video. It's only an hour and a half long. Boy, have I got crap. Okay, so it was 40 years, I gotta remember the story. It was 40 years ago that a disgruntled B100 listener was pissed off at the radio station because he never got his t-shirt or his record or whatever it was. So he stole the license plate off the B100 van.
Be careful with my pillow sheet, man. Needs help.
So he stole the license plate off the van and had it in his garage for over 20 years. He was a neighbor of my best friend from second grade, and he said, hey, you know Gary Kelly, don't you? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, here, give him this, maybe you'll like it. And it was the license plate off the B100 van, and by the way, he never got his prize. So I presented this to Bobby Rich and Paul Plummer at the 25th anniversary. Paul wasn't here, and so Bobby's taken good care of this for the last 15 years.
Wow.
I'd like to pass it on to Paul. This is the original license plate from the B100 van. And I have to say, it is an honor to present it to the two of you. I love you both. Thank you.
Take one.
No more film.
Oh, my iPhone's out of film.
What do you want?
Okay. All right. And then Rob has something for you, Paul. It's something from, it's something old, right, Rob? It's something that is not quite as old as Paul. Okay, but something old that is proper for something as historic as this evening. Is that correct?
And we've spared no expense to bring this to Paul, because so many of us have so many fond memories, and we wanted Paul to have a memento of this place where so many of us spent so many of our formative years and formative hours. And so Paul, I have the keys to Palmer's Palace. And they really are, and the tag is written out by Bob Crowdinger. And just so you know, these are not just any keys, these are the original keys before we had to change the locks because we lost the original keys.
Thank you.
Well, wait, there's more. Okay, so just one more thing. We had to really struggle to find anything as old as you are. But we found one more thing, and we want to present this on behalf of the entire staff of B100. This is from all of your friends here, and
Oh my God.
Rob's going to describe this to you, and this is something really special.
Paul, I have a collection of antique radios that I've had for a number of years, about 50, and there was only one that would be fitting to share with you tonight. This is from 1949. This is a Zenith table radio. It is the first and only FM only radio that Zenith manufactured. The reason you've never seen one is because Zenith manufactured this when you were probably about 6 or 7 years old for an entire year. And then they realized that, oh, we should put AM on there too. But you, Paul, understood that the real magic was in the FM.
Yeah.
And so, Bobby, would you read the inscription?
The inscription says, presented to Paul Palmer on the 40th anniversary of the sign on the B100 San Diego. Your leadership and vision created a radio legend. With love always from your many boogie children.
I'm so proud for you to have this, and if you can bear with me for just 1 minute. Bobby, as difficult as that radio was to find, and believe me, that was difficult to find. I've had that for about 25 years. Finding a second one was really hard. But this one, which is for you, fittingly enough, has a few more miles on it than Paul's does. It's been a few more places. Just like you, it's had several parts replaced or augmented. But we wanted to present this to you as well. And the inscription on this one says, presented to Bobby Rich, aka Dr. Bobby R. Boogie, to commemorate the 40th anniversary of the birth of B100. With love always from your Boogie brothers and sisters.
Oh my God. I did not know it was
That's incredible.
Well, it's ironic. Last week,
No, 2 weeks ago. It's so funny, I went to a luncheon that's put on by an organization called Connect, and it's all the high-tech people from Qualcomm or whatever, and they gave their Lifetime Achievement Award. And this year it went to Andrew Verturbi. And Andrew is the guy, is anybody familiar with Qualcomm?
Yeah, no, never.
Never heard of Qualcomm. All your cell phones. All of your cell phones have what they call CDMA technology. And these two guys, Irwin Jacobs and Andrew Verturbi, became multi-billionaires. And these phones are in billions of phones all around Earth. And they asked him, who are the most influential people in your life? And he came up with one name. He's Italian. And he said one name, which I didn't recognize. He said the second one was Marconi. Does anybody know who Marconi is? He's the father of radio. So I'm sitting there listening to this billionaire tell me about that. And then the second word he came up, second name after the third one, was Edwin Armstrong.
Oh, yeah.
You know where Edwin Armstrong is? Is the father of FM. So I'm sitting there saying, these guys are billionaires that made phones with Qualcomm. I've been in radio. I know these guys, Marconi and whatever. And we did music, money, and fun, and we're all still working. Where the hell did we go wrong? But this is great. Thank you so much. This radio is beautiful. I did not know that you could get an FM like that. That was made back then. I had a bunch of notes here, and I'm not going to go into all the history, but incidentally, Rob, you were doing the thing with the chairs. The thing with the chairs and the promotion and the whole thing. And the promotion people, and Sandy and Joan, and you'll know this, that they say when Jesus Christ comes back to earth, the only thing that he will recognize is the radio promotions.
Yes!
That's gonna be it. Okay? So, I just wanted you to know that. Boy, you guys made a mess back here. I don't know what the heck you've been doing. Ken Levine, you know, this guy thinks funny. I mean, shit, you think somebody that could write for those shows, and I've never seen you do this emceeing thing, but you're just, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I understand you, and we've been together a few different times, but I understand you a lot more now than I did before. Maybe I understand you a lot less than I did before, I'm not sure. But, you know, Bobby and Bobby, I appreciate your introduction, thank you so much. Some of those things that you talked about, I'd kind of forgotten, but the car, I remember the car. And I remember when he'd go to Benihana's, John Lynch is the one who was responsible for getting me into Benihana's and getting me into that habit. But, you know, when I was looking at hiring you and talked to a lot of different people, I kept hearing, well, he's high maintenance and he's an asshole. So I said, well, I can handle the high maintenance part. The asshole part, I think, will fit right in. So it was not that difficult making a decision to bring on Bobby. And I think we had a really, really good working relationship. But it's funny because, you know, I grew up with my grandmother and grandfather from the time I was about 6, and my room always had wires in it, and I had radios on, and I was a big Baltimore Oriole fan. We lived right between Washington and Baltimore, the Colts, the Orioles. Ironically, not knowing my first job out of college would be at WBAL in Baltimore, because they carried at the time the Colts, the Orioles, Maryland football, they carried all this. But I was always around these stations. In Baltimore, it was BAL. That was like the voice of Baltimore. You talk about community involvement and those kinds of things. Then I went to KDKA in Pittsburgh, which is the first commercial radio station in the world.
Right.
And that's where I went from being on the radio to going into sales. I did an all-night show for 1.5 years. And any of you that did it on, am I keeping you up? He's yawning when I talk about all-night show. You see that? Anybody that's done an all-night show for 1.5 years, that's why I moved into radio sales. Boy, oh boy, that was tough. KDK, and then went to WID in Chicago, which is another full-service station. Of course, you had WG in there. So when I went to KFMB, it was kind of in my blood that radio stations should be involved in the community. I believed in personalities. That's what we kind of tried to do on the AM side. But I had never really been in a position of working with an FM at that time. This is, remember, 1972. So we take over KFMB AM and FM. We figured we got to fix the AM first, and I hired Jack Woods as my program director. And he put himself together with Charlie and Harrigan. We reunited the team, and in 2.5 years, they beat Ernie Myers in the morning. Wow. So that was the first step. And Shots, you'll remember this because KCBQ and Kogo were our targets. And the AM was ranked 21st. And what we call MOWA, or Music Only for a Woman, on the FM, the automated machine, was ranked 23rd. So we got Charlie and Harrigan into first place in 1974. Am I right? It's Charlie and Harrigan's first year being number 1, 1974. Okay. So now it's time, we're always sitting there and know we're going to blow up this FM beautiful music station with the tapes. And I know I got Bobby in the wings, and I know he came from KHJ. And Robert W. Morgan, we had hired when I was at WIND, who I think, I mentioned earlier, I think is a great talent. So I had high regard for KHJ, and also I thought that Bobby was going to be our guy that could do something special with this FM. And Charlie and Harrigan left to go to Dallas. We hired Hudson and Bauer. Hudson and Bauer started on March 10th, 1975, the same day that B100 launched. And it was ironic, and this old, shitty studios that we had downtown, I mean, the roof was right here because we were on a mezzanine. And to think of these guys taking the station from 0 to number 1 in 2 years is quite remarkable. But when we sat down to talk about it, we were going to launch it in June of 1975. In December, and who was on the air there? We were just talking about it. Huh?
KSCA.
KSCA. Who was on KSCA? Ken?
Yeah.
Ken was on it, Gary was on it. It was owned by the McKinnons. And we're planning, Bobby and I are planning, and he has the whole thing worked out. B100, that was what he was going to call it, and stations weren't called that back then. And you probably wouldn't do it now because we are 100.7. You wouldn't call it B100. You know, you might stretch it to B101, but that time it was close enough, and FM really wasn't doing very much. KCBQ was the lead station. And that's why Shotgun became someone that we really wanted to hire. But KSCA blew up the format on December, somebody gave you the date.
18.
December 18th, 1974.
Yep.
And Bobby and I immediately said, we gotta go, we can't wait until June. How quickly can we make this thing go? And our target wait date was March 10th of 1975, so we had about 2 months to get it together. But the funny thing is, there was never any doubt in my mind that we would be successful with B100, and that's before I even knew what his plan was, who he was going to hire, what we were going to do. Because we were on FM stereo, our main competition was on AM, and that was KCBQ, and we knew that if we did this right, we would be able to beat them. And that's exactly what happened. And we also had a television station that we could use to promote, which was very important. And if you look at all the other things, it's like the stars aligned. I mean, the timing, the quality of the music that was out. Think about, listen to the music, it still sounds good. I mean, the songs that were popular in 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, whatever. We're in a market where I think you can really capture this. I mean, in Milwaukee, are you going to be able to capture the spirit and the weather and all the exciting things about San Diego? You can't do it. So we were doing it in the right place, at the right time, with the right people. And the rest is history, as they say. And we had some ups and downs. Bobby decided to go to New York. When was that? 1980? 79. And we missed him dearly. And we stumbled a little bit for a while there. And then we brought him back with the Rich Brothers in 84. And the Rich Brothers had a long, long run. And then you left again. You went to Seattle. You like to leave, don't you? But thank God we had enough sense to hire him back. And I got to tell you, those of you in the room that were fired by me or my associates, I apologize. And
Thank you.
I have to tell you, I don't even remember. I was talking to someone tonight, and I mean, it's 20 years later or whatever, and the people who left on their own or who came back, or like you left and you came back and you came back and you left and you came back and whatever, it's all too scrambled up. I mean, I'm getting too old to remember all that. It doesn't matter because the people, Gary Kelly did mornings for well, you needed a job. And Gary was a guy that I could always count on, you know, to come in and take over, and I knew he would do a good job. But, you know, when you look back on that, it seems like you had a lot of changes. So I apologize for those of you that I fired. But everybody gets fired. I got fired. You know, I thought I would be at KFMB, at AM and FM for, you know, till maybe now. And Bob Myers, I didn't know Bob Myers was going to die. And I didn't know they were going to hire a world-class asshole to replace him. Did you work for my Artie Kleiner? Artie Kleiner. I haven't seen Artie since he fired me, so that's okay. But hey, he did retire. 22 years is a long, long time. But it was a remarkable station, and just looking at it, listening to it, I don't know very many markets where you could have done this, what we did. And I'm very, very proud of the job that everybody in here did. The other thing is, at those other stations I was talking about working at previously, you know, there was the camaraderie of the sales department and the air talent. A lot of them hated each other. They didn't talk or whatever. I don't think I've ever seen a situation where not only, like for you as the B100 team, and then the AM team got along well, but there was a lot of crossover. You take a look at those pictures back there, and because we work together on so many different things, the AM and the FM, look how many AM people are here tonight, being with the FM. And of course, we did sell the stations in combination. So our sales team worked with the AM and with the FM together. But I think that kind of brought it together, and I think we also tried to create a spirit of cooperation, and we had fun. I mean, that music, money, and fun thing, I still get people saying music, money, and fun. My kids,
And
music.
your kids do.
And the kids do. But when I went to Big Brothers Big Sisters, we had this personality test, and your certain colors. It's like 4 colors. I don't know if you've seen it. You probably know what I'm talking about. Where's the side? Where's Bill? He'll know what we're talking about. There's 4 colors there, and yellow is fun, and that was my dominant thing. So I think in terms of whatever leadership qualities I have, the element of fun has to kind of be there. So I'm guessing Bobby came up with music, money, and fun. Was that your? I don't know. I can't remember who has titled any of these things. But it worked. Hey, don't pick on me. There's a good picture of Bona. You remember Bona? Bona has passed away also. I don't know if you knew that. Do you remember Bona in our Catholic department? Nice picture of her back with those other ones there. But I'm gonna wrap it up here. I'm not sure if I covered everything I wanted to. I mentioned, you know what I do have to tell you though. Oh, when Bobby was hired as the rich dude. Some of you may not know this, but when we hired him to do afternoon drive, he was the rich dude. So one of the promotions we done, Blazing Saddles had come out earlier in the year of '74. And do you remember the scene? Do you remember the scene where they set up the toll booth to slow him down? And Slim Pickens says, "Somebody go get a shitload of dimes." Well, you got to remember that scene. Okay, you remember that. Okay. So I remember sitting in my office, and Bobby's going to come in, and we got to throw out. We can't throw out dollar bills or whatever. We want to go out in the streets and have them throw out money. So somebody go out and get a shitload of silver dollars. And so that's the first thing we gave him. And he went out in the streets with these bags of money with silver dollars in there. Oh my God. The other thing I want to tell you, and I don't know if Gary's video has that, there's a scene in there with Bob Myers, who was my boss, but there was also the owner, August C. Meyer, in there. August was about 80 years old, and I didn't hear this until about 6 months ago. Somebody told me the story. Mr. Meyer, he kind of talked up like this, and he just kind of, he had that funny voice. He went to this associate who told me the story, and he said, "Well, what do you think about those FM guys?" "That's my wild bunch." 80-year-old man referred to the B100 team as his wild bunch. And as a visionary, you think about this old guy who probably had no idea what we were playing in music and probably didn't even listen to it, but he knew that it was the right thing to do for that FM station. So, there we are, the Wild Bunch. I want to thank you. I am so humbled to be here and I'm honored by you guys, but I'm just honored to know you, and it was so great to be able to be with you tonight and spend time, and I hope that we can. It's going to get late, but we're going to maybe be around tomorrow for a while and hopefully connect. And my wife, Marge, who you all remember? She's taking some nice photos. We will celebrate 50 years of marriage in October. So, if you guys know how much shit you had to put up with me, working with me, you can imagine how much she's put up with in 50 years. So, thank you again.
many times did you fire Marge?
How many times did she fire me?
She fired me more.
Well, it's hard to believe that it's over. Thank you all. Again, thanks to John Fox for putting this on.
It's only 9 minutes more.
Oh, 9 minute video. You better hurry because the KGB reunion is at midnight.